Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the first update in the house buying series. I am buying my first home, if you didn't know already. I'll leave a card up in the top that tells you kind of the full whammy of what I'm doing. So like what I'm looking for, my ideas, all that kind of stuff. Basically like the initial full spurt of information. And I'll also leave the card down below because I've also done a video about tips for saving money that you might not have already thought of, so I'll leave that down below. It will end up being the full playlist with all of these videos, so depending on when you're watching these you can go back or forward and see what's in there. But like I said, today's video is going to be an update because it's been about 2-ish months, maybe a month and a half, I'm not really sure, since I did the first video, and I wanted to sit down and give you some updates on where I'm at, what I'm thinking and how things are going. So if you watched the first video, you'll know that I am saving my money for the deposit before I even start looking, because I really want to make sure that I've got the deposit there before I start looking at houses. I want to make sure I've got the mortgage approved before I start looking. I basically want all my ducks lined up and then I'll start looking at houses, because I don't want to, I know what I'm like, and I don't want to go looking for houses, fall in love with a house, and then I can't get the mortgage for that amount, or my deposit's not enough, or something goes wrong. Like, I'd rather make sure 1000% that I can get the mortgage firstly and that I've got the money there, just so that everything kind of runs a bit smoother in the long run. So deposit wise, I am still saving. I am about 40% of the way to what I want to save, and I've got a figure in mind which I'm not going to go into, but that is kind of a figure in mind, and I've got a date in mind of when I want to hit that. So if I haven't done all of this by that date, then I'm going to be renting for another year, but I'm trying really hard to save up the money by that date. And I am going to be putting down a 15% deposit, which is at the advice of my mortgage broker. And I've been speaking to loads of people about this. There is a 5% deposit going around at the moment. Obviously stamp duty is released, like there's no stamp duty right now. But the problem is I'm self-employed and I'm buying on my own, which makes me a lot more of a risk to a mortgage broker and a mortgage company than if I was employed, living on my own, in a couple, self-employed. Like basically I'm in the most risky situation to a mortgage lender, and for that reason I've been massively advised not to try and do a 5%, because it will just be really messy and really hard. I'll probably be rejected a bunch of times, and it's probably just going to be a lot easier for me to do it if I have saved a bit more. So my plan is to save 15%. If I only end up saving 10% and I've got that 10% by the date in my head, 1000% I will start looking and I will start seeing what I can do with a mortgage and working with my mortgage broker. And if I can get a house at 10%, fab. If not, then I'll just keep saving and go back to it at a later date. So that being said, obviously stamp duty is currently lifted and stuff, meaning that fees will be less, but I've also given myself like a 10 to 20 grand buffer that I'm going to try and save, which is going to be for the legal fees, the potential stamp duty, because it's being lifted at the moment on the 30th of June, and I've got a big feeling that it's not going to be renewed. So depending on whether that's renewed or not, I think I'm more than likely going to have to pay stamp duty. Also things like, when I move, I want to make sure that I've got a bit of extra cash spare. So if I do move into a house and, for example, something breaks at the boiler, I can replace it immediately. Or if the windows are really like single glazed, or do you know, like little things that just need replacing really quickly, or like, for example, if there's really hideous carpet, I don't want to change it straight away. Basically, this is kind of inspired by my mum. So she just moved house with my stepdad about 2-3 months ago, and they had all the survey done, everything came back fine. And when they moved in, they just realised there was so many things that had just not been done properly. So for example, the boiler broke pretty quickly. They replaced all the windows because there was a bit they were a bit mouldy, and they just wanted to do that. There's also other aesthetic things they've done, like they've relaid the patio, they've had the patio doors changed, they've done painting, carpets, doors being stripped, the whole lot. And obviously to do those things quickly, you need the money there. Obviously from her going through it right now, like, and hearing her talk about things, because me and my mum are basically best friends, so we talk about everything, and hearing all her struggles with different parts of like needing to replace the boiler and stuff, if you haven't got that money there, you can't pay for it. So I want to make sure that I've just got it as a buffer, and it means that any renovation work I want to start thinking about doing, I can do pretty much like straight away. Obviously I won't do like major things like ripping out a kitchen straight away, but little things like if the boiler breaks and stuff, then it can be done. Obviously this isn't something I'm 1000% gonna have. It could be that I only save an extra 5 grand, it could be 10, 20, I don't know. I'm just gonna basically keep plowing money into my savings account as and when it comes in, and then if I have if I have enough, then I'll put more into it, basically. And it also, another point, that spare money means that I've got the money for things like furniture. So I want to replace this sofa pretty quickly when I move, because I was going to get a new one moving into this house, and I thought there's literally no point. I just got the footstool, so it made it into a corner sofa, and that's basically it, because it just seems silly to buy new furniture for a house that I'm only going to be in for a year. Whereas obviously if I'm moving into a forever house, well, not a forever house, it'll be like a 5-year plus house. And I want to know that then the furniture fits, because like imagine I bought a massive sofa and it fit in here but didn't fit when I move, or whatever happens. Like for example, I've got bar stools. I don't know if I'm going to have somewhere where bar stools can go in my next house, but I've got them. And like had I have spent a lot of money on them, then it would be very different. But I think they were like £100 for 2 or something like that. I don't know. I know the figure I want in my head, and I'm manifesting this figure like nothing else, but it's just getting there, because I'm about a quarter of the way to the figure I really want, but what I need, I'm about half to a third of the way there, which is quite good going. Secondly, will I still be buying in summer? I don't know, is the honest answer to that question. I do not know. I keep being asked a lot if I'm already looking at houses, and the answer is yes. I'm looking online, but I'm not looking seriously. So what I've been doing is kind of going through property websites like Rightmove, Zoopla, etc. And I've been looking at different areas where I want to move. So I've got the idea of like the place I want to move, and then like the surrounding areas. And what I've been doing is kind of looking at all the different towns and villages and cities and stuff around where I want to be. So I've kind of got like a focal point, and then I've been seeing what kind of prices are coming up at the moment, what kind of houses are coming up, how many houses are coming up, what kind of thing I can get for my money. So like for example, in some places that I've been looking, I can get a really nice 3-bedroom house for the price that I want to pay, but I won't have a driveway or I won't have a garden. And then there's other places where I can get a really small house that's like 2-bed, but I get a driveway and a garden. So trying to work out kind of what I can get for my money and see what kind of thing there is, because one thing my mum kept saying to me throughout this whole thing is rather go for a small house in a really good area than a big house in a rubbish area. So I've tried to kind of take that mentality and just be like, as long as it has some kind of garden, enough space for 2 cars, and it's nice, fine. I don't care how tiny it is, as long as I can fit beds and stuff in the rooms, like that's fine. 2 cars obviously because I need my own car and my boyfriend or a friend who comes over's car, because obviously at first, I think I mentioned in the last video, I'm going to be buying on my own. I've only been with James for 8 months ish. I think it's about 8 months, and I don't personally feel like that's enough time to buy a house with someone, and I've wanted to buy a house since before we got together. Not really going to go into it, but essentially we're buying separate houses and then we're going to see what happens from there. I personally think that's a really financially savvy way to do it, because it means then that like if we both buy separately and then in a year he moves in with me or I move in with him, we've got another property that we can start renting out or sell and flip and whatever. And going back to the point about if I'm going to be buying in summer, I am very unsure at the moment what is going to happen regarding timings. It stresses me a lot, so I don't want to think about it, but I have to be out of this place on a certain date, and it's in the summer, so I'm very worried about what if I find somewhere but I can't move in for a month after I leave this place, or what if I haven't found the right house. Like all these different thoughts are going around in my head, and obviously I can't necessarily say that I'm going to buy a house and be able to move into it at the right time for leaving this house. So there's a lot of things up in the air, but I think I'm trying to alleviate the stress of that and just thinking like, worst case scenario, I can try and get an Airbnb for 3 to 6 months, because you can do like shorter lets and then put stuff in a storage unit, or potentially move with my boyfriend for a couple of months, or I don't know yet. It's going to really depend on timings, and I think I'll know when I find a house what that situation is going to look like. And like I said, if I haven't found a house and it's like 6 weeks till I move, I am 100% just going to rent for another 6 months to a year. Ideally, I'd like to move for 6 months, but I don't know if a lot of landlords will allow that. Hopefully, if I say I can put down 6 months up front, they'll let me, but we'll see, because I don't know yet. I don't know. And it also depends as well on like timings, because 6 months would make it like December, January time, and no one really moves then, so it'd have to be a year. I don't really know, but essentially I'd rent and then look, because my one big fear is that I don't want to find a house, or like I don't want to feel rushed to find a house and then buy a house that I don't love because it's the right time. I'd rather find a house that I love and then work out the situation around that if I'm renting still, because I'm sure there'll be ways around things, and I'm very much aware of the fact that I've got to live in this next house for like a long period of time, and it's my first bought property, so I don't want to do what I would do if I'm renting and just take whatever comes. I'd rather actually know that I really love it and want it. And also moving back to rent would halve my rent without doubt. So even if I did move back and rent, I'd be able to pocket so much more money, which means that I'd be saving a lot quicker. So either way, it's kind of a win-win. It just depends on finding the right house. And I'm also still not sure between new build and old, because part of me loves the idea of a new build because it's just ready. You don't have to add any extra money to it, like it's just there. But it's also things like you can't really change the kitchen, you can't really change the bathrooms, there's not always the best parking, it's very crowded, there's a lot of young families, so it'll be really noisy, and houses are kind of like flat packed. So I don't know, I'm still torn. I do love the idea of an older house if it's the right area, because I think you can do so much to it, and also older houses add value, so new builds don't tend to grow in value as much, and that makes me more swayed to an old house. But like I said, I don't know yet, and there is going to be a video on this coming about my indecision and like comparing old and new houses across the UK and just seeing what I like. So we'll see. What else have I got to talk about? I've got a little list. I think that's it actually. Basically just an update to say that I'm about 70 to 80% moving in summer, but it just depends on how many campaigns I get in and how much work there is to how much money I can save, because obviously the more work I get, the more money I can put away. Hopefully work stays really good. It's been amazing the last few months, so fingers crossed that stays really good. Otherwise, obviously I'm not saving as much. I am putting loads of stuff on Depop. I've been selling the odd bit on Facebook Marketplace locally. There's just a lot of bits that I've been trying to do to just make up a bit of money. Hopefully you have seen my Depop already. If not, I'll leave it down below because there's still a few bits there. And I'm sure there will probably be bits coming up in time, because every time I look in my wardrobe I see something else and I'm like, why have you kept that? You don't like that. And then it comes out. So there probably will be some more bits. Anyway, that is my update. I hope you enjoyed listening to me waffle on for however long it's been now about houses and deposits and all that kind of stuff. And I hope I've cleared up some of the questions that I keep being asked about whether I'm looking for a house, whether I found a house, what I'm doing about moving, etc. Hopefully that's cleared it up. I do massively need to let go of this thing of like renting for another year as failing, because it's not failing. It's not failing at all. I just think I'm so dead set on summer that I'm like, it's a step backwards. But it's not. We'll see. We will see. I just want to make sure that I buy the right house is essentially what it is. Like, I'm more focused on buying the right house than I am about buying a house, if that makes sense. Like, I'd rather wait another year and buy the perfect house than buy right now and not live in the house that I love. Anyway, I'm going to stop this video here because it's been 20 minutes of me waffling. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a little like if you did. Don't forget to leave me a comment with any tips or tricks that you've got from buying yourself, or any advice or anything like that. And make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell to see when I upload. But that's it for today's video, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.